Hello and welcome to my stamp studio. Today will be the last day in my masculine card series of videos. I hope you've enjoyed them and they've inspired you to try some new folds and techniques. But I have a couple of great techniques to share today. Some might say I saved the best for last. So I will be showing you how you can achieve a metal look on Guy cards. There are lots of great papers and techniques that can get you this look, but Stampin' Up! Has made it easy once again. They carry metallic papers in silver, champagne, copper, gold, and black. And I'm embarrassed to show you these, but I thought I would just put them on camera. I am running low on my metallic paper. I have been using this and doing these techniques like crazy this week and just love them. So the biggest piece is copper. You have a little piece of silver here, some gold, and then the champagne has just a little pink tint to it. And then I have to admit to you that I don't have any black. I've never bought the black, haven't tried it. So I have a bunch of these packs, I think 2 of each pack in my shopping cart for Stampin' Up! Right now. And I've ordered some black to try some different techniques with it as well. Okay? So these papers allow us to do lots of fun things, but obviously we can do some different things with them to enhance them, okay, than just leaving them plain. The first technique I want to show you is using the silver metallic paper. And what I did here was I took a strip of it and attached it to gray granite cardstock and ran them through the woodland folder, which is retiring, unfortunately. So I love this folder. It gives you kind of that birch tree look. So if you don't have it and want it, you better grab it. The gray granite is layered on a piece of very vanilla here and then anchored to the same color card base here, gray granite, to separate them a little bit there. I have a piece of mossy meadow. The tree is from the Rooted in Nature bundle. It's markered and then it has a die that you can cut out. I loved a marker because I gave the little tree trunk in there some brown all the way through, which is very showy. And then the greeting is also from that Rooted in Nature bundle. I threw in some of the cream baker's twine with a little bit of linen thread to anchor a little nature colors and texture to the card. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, I used the copper metallic paper and I ran it through the hammered 3D folder. And then I punched it out in various sizes of circles. And I wanted to point out here that Stampin' Up! Current catalog has various sizes of circle handheld punches. Only a handful of them will be carrying over to the new catalog. So if you want some circle handheld punches, I would pick those up quickly. They're really nice to just grab and be able to use. Of course, Stampin' Up! Will still have a circle die set that has many different sizes of circles that you would be able to utilize that way as well. Okay, so I took those and attached those to a piece of soft suede, which I also had run through the hammered 3D embossing folder, layered it on a piece of very vanilla here, and anchored it to the same color base of soft suede. I wrapped it in some silver metallic thread, and I should point out that that will also be retiring and not carrying over to the new catalog. But I think that adds a nice, fun way, gives some interest to your cards to kind of wrap it in some of that metallic thread. The So Grateful sentiment is from the Ornate Thanks, which is one of the new stamp sets from the new catalog, so obviously it will be carrying over. But I think this would make a nice Father's Day card, or even just a thinking of you card too. Okay, so then the next one really changes up the colors. So this one is on a Whisper White card base with some Blueberry Bushel, one of the retiring in colors, with a little bit of Granny Apple Green. I love those two colors together, really fun and bright. And then I used a piece of the silver metallic paper and ran it through the impression leaf die from the Rooted in Nature bundle. So that also has some impression dies and also cutout dies in that bundle. And I love these impression dies. I could lay the large one and the small one on, run it through back and forth a couple different times, placing them all over the silver metallic paper, and achieve that look. I thought that turned out really nice. And then using some of the silver thread again, just strips of it that I scotch taped behind my sentiment. And that sentiment that I have been using a lot this week comes from the By the Dock stamp set. Okay? And then the last one I want to show you is one that kind of plays on that silver metallic again. So if you don't have any silver metallic paper in your stamp stash, I came up with this. This is aluminum foil from your kitchen. So I went up and got a piece and I crinkled it into a loose ball. I smoothed it out gently as not to tear it, and then I wrapped it around a piece of Whisper White cardstock. I adhered the back with the back edges on the back of the Whisper White with some Scotch tape, and voila, here is that metallic look. And I don't know if the camera picks it up. I'm trying to see, but it has this beautiful little textured crinkle look back behind then. I used some of the metallic brads that are currently in the catalog but will be retiring. They come in gold, copper, and silver, and I realized I went a little crazy with them, but I added a few. It wasn't enough. I kept adding more. Then I added another row. I just thought they added a nice little design element over here on the side. And I kind of alternated the gold, the copper, and the silver colors with that. Okay? And then the lighthouse is from the Sailing Home set. It's black embossed and cut out with the coordinating framelit. And then I also used the stitched nesting dies in various sizes and colors over here to be able to add kind of that black and white dynamic a little bit. Kind of plays on it. The sentiments are from the Friends Like You stamp set that I've used previously this week, which I think work great for a male birthday or even Father's Day coming up. So I thought this turned out actually to be a fun, nice little card. And of course it has a lighthouse, so I love it. Now, as I said already, there are other ways to enhance our metallic paper to give it even more interest. I'm going to show you two techniques today. One is called tarnished foil, and the other is called black ice. They are fabulous. That's all I'm going to say. So first, I'm going to show you the tarnished foil, and I have a couple samples here that show it off. The first one is using the brick and mortar 3D folder. That will be carrying over to the new catalog. I ran it first through with copper metallic paper, and then I added gold and silver embossing powders to achieve this heavy metal look. I added a little bit of this copper trim, which is retiring, and then that sentiment comes from that Rooted in Nature bundle. I kind of anchored that heavy metal look on just a piece of crumb cake here, just to bring it down to earth a little bit. You know, it just kind of is very bright and bold sometimes with all those metals. And then I anchored it on a very rich, dark, early espresso cardstock. Okay, I thought this one turned out really nice with that brick and mortar folder. Then the second one I wanted to show you with this technique uses the pine wood plank folder, and that will be carrying over into the new catalog. I ran a piece of gold metallic paper through this folder, added copper and silver embossing powders to this one, and you're actually getting a sneak peek to a couple of the new products that are coming out in the catalog. A new suite called Beautiful World, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So I took the globe from that new set and stamped it in soft suede, and the sentiment is also from that, inked up in Pretty Peacock, which I soon learned this Pretty Peacock color is beautiful with these metallic colors. So it's a beautiful base to use with this technique. And then I punched it out of the Label Me Lovely punch. The compass on the side is actually from the Sailing Home stamp set. And I went ahead and I embossed it in gold, copper, and silver to get all three of those metals represented over here on this side to coordinate with the the pine wood plank folder. Okay, I think that turned out beautiful over there. Added a couple little gold accents, and then added a little bit more of the gold trim there that's retiring, just to finish it off a little bit. Okay, I think that's just beautiful. Okay, so the card that we're going to make today is this one here, and I'll show you the stamp set. The stamp set, like I said, is called Beautiful World. It's just one product out of that beautiful World stamp suite. I guess I am being redundant there, aren't I? Anyway, love it with the two globes. Has some really nice mixed font sentiments. A little smaller compass than what you just saw on the last card. You actually have some dies that coordinate with these so that you can cut these globes out and have them freestanding. And a cute little feather ink trap there too, I think is adorable. So again, this is a bundle with some dies. So something new to look forward to coming out in the new catalog. The other thing I used on the card we're going to make today is the New World 3D embossing folder. So this I have quickly fallen in love with. So it has a yellow sticker, it needs a blue plate, and I just wanted to point out that if you have the 3D folders and do not have a blue plate, you should pick the blue plate up soon, because the new die cut machine that will eventually be available from Stampin' Up! Will not have the blue plate, okay? And if you want to keep your big shot and not change over die cutting machines, you will need that for any of these embossing folders, okay? It's an easy little pickup. I think it's like $8 or something like that. So this gives us the representation of crinkled paper. I just love it, like an old crinkled map or something like that. The other thing I am finding that I like with it is I've been running it through this way, which I always say with the Stampin' Up! Logo is side up, but I've also been turning it over and running things through backwards, and we get a completely different look. And I'm going to show you that here in just a minute, okay? So that's part of that New World suite. Here's the sample of the card that we're going to make today. That's using that embossing folder and the tarnished foil technique, okay? So let's get to it. So you also on my sample card might have seen a card base color that you're not familiar with. This is one of the new in colors. It is Cinnamon Cider, and I am in love with this color. I think it's a fabulous masculine color, but I think it will be gorgeous in the fall, okay? So I'm going to bring in just a blotter here to use. I'm going to set my card base aside, and I have a piece of 4x4, a piece of copper metallic paper that I have already run through the Old World 3D embossing folder, okay? Now, I ran it through what I say the reverse side, the side without the Stampin' Up! Logo. So when we get done today, we're going to compare, because this one was run through with the Stampin' Up! Logo up. This one was run through with the Stampin' Up! Logo down. And we'll compare these two cards when we're done with this technique and see which one we like better. So what you're going to need is a Versamark. I have to admit this is one of my older Versamark ink pads that has been used and loved a lot. If I take the lid off, you can see that it has. And it's a nice technique to use with an older ink pad. If you don't have one, that's fine. A new ink pad will work. But sometimes these techniques are nice to have a little bit older ink pads so that you don't ruin your new ones. I shouldn't say ruin. It doesn't really ruin them. It just uses them in a different way. So I'm going to take my Versamark ink pad, and I'm going to actually anchor the paper over here with my hand and just run the edge of that ink pad right across gently that texture that the embossing folder created. Okay, and I'm just doing one swipe along the edge. Now I've missed this section over here because that's where my fingers were. So I'm going to turn it around, grab my ink pad again, and go ahead and gently just rub it across that edge to make sure that I've covered that there. Now, I'm using copper metallic paper. So the embossing powders I want to use need to be gold and silver to really achieve that 3 metal look that we're going for here. So I'm going to grab my gold embossing powder, and I'm going to take and just spoon it over. Tap off the extra. While I'm doing this, I'm actually going to turn on my embossing gun so it can be heating up. So it's nice, I found these metallic papers actually take the heat well, but what works best is if it's already heated up. You don't want to dink around blowing your paper and your powder with a gun that's not already heated up, okay? So I preheated it. I'm going to use my bone folder. You could use scissors, you could use your pick a tool, you could use anything just to kind of hold the paper and anchor it as I begin to melt. I find that it helps the paper not curve and bow so much when I do that. You'll also notice, if you try this technique at home, that there is a smell from heating this metallic paper. All right, so if you start to smell that, it's okay. I hope the camera is picking this up. I think that the embossed powder is heavy enough now that it's weighting the foil paper down. Oop. Okay. After you know that you've gotten it all, you're done. I'm actually going to leave my gun on. I'll set it down here so it's not as loud. But I hope the camera's picking this up. You have just a little bit of that copper and the gold right there on top, okay? The paper is a little warm, so you do want to give it a chance to kind of cool off before we do the next step. Now, the crinkles on this particular embossing folder kind of go that way. So I first did my first gold embossing Versamark this way. So this time I'm going to turn this paper and I'm going to do it the other way, just so it hits different areas of the paper, okay? I don't want to put my next layer of embossing powder exactly where the last one was. It just kind of mixes up the colors a little bit better. Your embossing powder is a little bit better. Notice I'm not going crazy. I'm just putting a light streak 2-3 times across there. Now I'm going to grab my third metal color here, silver, and do the same thing. Go ahead and add the powder to it. Tap off my extra. Now I'm seeing a couple little lines here. I'm actually going to turn this off. I see a couple little lines. I don't know if the camera's going to pick these up. Oh, there, it kind of does. A couple little lines here that the ink pad has created. If that happens, all you need to do is take your finger in here and just kind of blend those out a little bit, okay? The same is true if you have an area that has a little too much embossing powder. You can easily come in here with your finger, or you could use a paintbrush, whatever works best for you, to kind of blend some of those out a little bit and make it a little bit nicer, okay? So I'm going to set this one aside. I'm not going to take time to heat it because I already have done one here. And I've also attached all of our little accents here. So I took the globe and copper embossed it, attached it first with multi-purpose glue. Then I took a piece of the gold metallic paper and put that there. The next thing you're seeing is another new item from that New World bundle from the new catalog. And it is this gorgeous faux suede trim ribbon. In love with this. I don't know what's faux about it. It feels just like suede, and it is just gorgeous. And I could not resist using it on this card. I think it is perfect right here with this. The next thing I added was the greeting, which I embossed in silver. So I chose my metal colors here because I wanted all three colors to be represented. Copper, gold, and then a little bit of silver. And those are all picked up in the background, okay? So I have all those attached. I just attached my ribbon to the back with some Scotch tape. I am going to pull in my multi-purpose glue. After you heat this, it does kind of curl a little bit, okay? So it's hard to have it really lay flat on your project if it's not glued down all the way around. So make sure and hit all these little corners, edges, all these. I think it just holds a little better than dimensionals. Now, if you still wanted to pop this up on your card base, you obviously could cut this a little smaller. You could layer it on a piece of very vanilla and then put the dimensionals on the very vanilla piece, okay? I just think that it layers and lays flat a little nicer with the multi-purpose glue and not dimensionals, okay? So I'm going to layer this on top of my new color cardstock, Cinnamon Cider. In love with this, and again couldn't resist using that with this technique because I think that color looks stunning with all this metal. So now when you see both of our samples finished here, you can see the two different textures I achieved by using the opposite sides of the embossing folder. Okay, I like them both. I can't pick one. Sorry. Anyway, I think these turned out beautifully. Okay, so the next technique I wanted to show you today is the black ice. And I love this technique. I've done it in the past. I can't say that I've actually done it in a class before, but I've had lots of samples in my stamp studio with it. So this is a way to enhance your metallic papers to shimmer like ice. Okay, so the first sample I have to show you here is this one. This one I used the Sailing Home stamp set with the coordinating dies, and I also used the lighthouse out of that set as well. Okay, so I black embossed all those images first on a piece of copper, and then I coat it with clear embossing powder to really give it that shimmer and shine, ice or mirror reflection kind of look there. Okay, it's anchored on a piece of ballet blue with a little piece of crumb cake back there to give it that little natural feel with all that metallic. And then I put some copper trim back behind here, and then I black embossed this beautiful greeting from By the Dock. Okay, I thought this turned out really pretty. I love the copper with that ballet blue. I thought that was really pretty. Now, the next card I want to show you is the one that we're actually going to make, but then I want to show you something else too. So this one is one we're going to make today. I used the sailboats in the background. We're going to punch out some of the sailboats with the dies and use the World's Best Father here from the Itty Bitty Greetings stamp set and layered it all on a piece of mint macaron, which I think is very pretty. Now you notice the two samples that I have shown you here just have black on top of the metallic paper. I wanted to show you a different one. This is not a masculine card, but I pulled it from my stash because it's another option to show you. So this one is done on gold metallic paper. I black embossed this flower leaf image here in the corner. And then before I put the clear embossing powder over the top of it, I used the blends and I went in here and I colored the leaves, the flowers, and the branches. And it just gives you a whole different look here, okay? Versus just the black and then the metallic color, okay? So if you want to color and mess around with that and do that, it really is a very pretty technique too, okay? All right, so back to these. This is the card we're going to make. I'm going to show you how to do this black ice technique. So like I said, our card base is mint macaron. I'm going to set that aside for right now. I have a piece of 4x4 copper metallic paper here. And the first thing I'm going to do with it is I'm going to use my black Stays-On ink pad. Just like the previous technique, I suggested you have an old Versamark. Well, if you have an old Stays-On ink pad, this technique works well too. All right, so if you happen to have more than one. The idea is that you want it to be a little bit older. I don't know if the camera picks this up, but my edges are a little bit frayed here. It's probably not as juicy as some of the new ink pads might be, and that's what you want, okay? You don't want a ton of ink on this. So I'm going to take this, similar to what I did in the last procedure with the Versamark, I'm going to take the Stays-On, and I'm actually going to just gently streak it across my card, okay? And you play around. I would start real light pressing first, and then press a little harder if you need to. And you're going to create some of these little black streaks across your paper. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to do it from the other side, okay? And you want to keep going from one edge to the other so that you don't get something like that, okay? Because that's going to catch the edge of your ink pad, all right? It's not the end of the world if you do it. Now, you remember that Stays-On dries really fast, okay? So I don't need to give that much time to dry. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sailboats, and I apologize, I don't have them out. So let me grab a block here quick. And I'm going to mount them at just a little differing height here. I'm going to put this one up here in the corner, And then I'm going to take the larger one and I'm going to place it down just a little bit, okay? I might angle this one down just a little bit so that the boat, I like the boats to be straight across when I stamp them. I like the sail to be at the angle, okay? Now I'm going to ink this up with my Versamark. Again, I'm using kind of my old one for this technique. It doesn't matter, but it's nice to have a little bit older one for some of these techniques. I'm going to take it and I'm going to stamp it right up here in the corner. Now as I stamp that, it's kind of moving just a little bit. Of course, you're stamping on a shiny, slick piece of metallic paper, so you do need to be careful and just go nice and straight down. It's going to have a little bit of stick to it, so I'm going to take my left hand and anchor my paper here down onto the table as I pop it up. And then I'm going to bring my black embossing powder in, and I'm going to pour that over, and it has picked up those sailboats. Okay? I'm going to do another little grouping of sailboats down here. Again, being very conscious that it's slick paper, so gently put that down onto that shiny, slick metallic paper, giving it time to pick up the image. Anchor your paper before you pull your stamp up, and then come back in here and pour embossing powder over that. Now, the step that I just completed is a step that I kind of added to this technique. And I'm going to show you a card in a little bit as to why I did that, okay? I think it just makes the sailboats or the image, whatever you're stamping, kind of pop a little bit more off this metallic paper, okay? So I'm going to use my bone folder. Again, you could use your scissors, you could use your pick a tool, whatever you want, to anchor my paper. I'm letting my gun heat up really nice before I get it onto this paper. Again, the metallic paper takes the heat gun nicely, but not for an extended period of time. So you really want your gun to be nice and hot, and you really want to get to what you're heating, get to the business, and you want to get off, okay? Sorry if I'm blocking that. Let me come over here to the side. I think you guys, all you were seeing was my big hand holding the gun. Over here and do these now. Don't little dawdle, don't you love that term, over the top of your embossing powder. Like I said, heat it and then get off it. Your paper will like you so much more. I'm getting that smell that I referred to earlier too, okay? That just the smell of the metal paper with the heat on it. All right, our next step, I do want to let that cool just a little bit, but our next step is going to use the clear embossing powder, so I'm going to get that in here. And we're going to need our Versamark ink pad. And I'm sorry for the glare. I just don't know how else to do this without, you need lighting obviously to see what I'm doing, but the metallic paper is just the nature of it. So I'm going to take my Versamark ink pad and I'm going to anchor my paper right here with my left hand, and I'm going to run it right across the whole paper. I'm starting off the paper on one side, ending on the paper on the other side, okay? That way you don't get those lines or little blotchy areas. Then I'm going to flip my paper all the way around. I think I went one too many. And then go ahead and do the same down here at the bottom, really holding it. Now this time, I ran this over several times. I don't know, I didn't really count, but you really want a good coating. I might even come back in here and do this side again, make sure I got it all. You want a really good coating of Versamark on this. Then I'm going to gently pick it up without trying to put my fingers on it, just hold from the edges, and I'm going to pour some clear embossing powder over the top. Tap off my extra, and it looks like I got a nice coating of Versamark on there because this clear embossing powder is sticking and telling me that most of that is coated. Okay? I'm going to tap it back down here and get my heat gun again going. Again, I'm going to let it warm up really well before I let go to it at my paper here. I'm going to use my bone folder, hold my paper, and then come in here and start heating. Let me push this up just a little bit there. Hopefully you can see it a little bit better. And I think what you're probably going to see on camera is that fuzzy or fogginess is going to go away, and it's going to look more crystal clear. Notice how those boats are really popping, being black embossed. Anytime you black emboss something, you really make it bolder, and so it really pops much more. I just want to make sure I got all that. I think I do. Again, that's going to be warm, so make sure and give it a chance to cool off just a little bit. Now I want to pull in a sample. This is what I was referring to earlier. Why I added that black embossing stage, or step, I guess I should say, to this. So this card here, oh, I hope this is going to show it. It's kind of hard. This card here, I did not use it on. And the boats actually do not pop. You can kind of see them in the background, but they really pop on this one. So I don't know how much of that you can see. But anyway, believe me, in person, it is. I see a little area right here that I'm going to come back in. I'm going to heat again, because I don't think it heated all that. Now, I think this looks great. Sometimes people will come in here after it's cooled off. They'll take their Versamark ink pad and they'll do a second layer of clear embossing powder. And it really does give it quite a shine to it, okay? But this has a pretty good shine on it, I think. I'm pretty happy with this. So again, my paper has curved just a little bit. It's just the nature of the metallic paper when heat hits it. So I'm going to take my multi-purpose glue and go all around on the back side of that, right up to the edge and those corners too. And then I'm just going to layer that here. Pretty much centered. Really give it some time, press it and give it some time to stick to your paper, or your cardstock base, I guess I should say. Now, I thought this card just to add a little bit of something to it. However, you can see that this technique is so pretty just by itself. It needs very little embellishments. But these little sailboats have dies that cut out it, and I can't resist using them. And I left it this way to show you that if you ever do get this set, sometimes these dies wiggle and move around quite a bit. They're very small, thin, lightweight dies, and so I use washi tape and tape them down to be able to get them to line up perfectly with the stamped images. Okay? So this larger sailboat, I'm just going to take my multi-purpose glue, and I'm just going to add just a little bit to the back side of that. And I think I'm just going to put that here. And then the little bit smaller one, I thought it would be fun to have it pop up just a little bit. So I'll put 2 small dimensionals on the back side of it and place it down here just a little bit in this corner. And then I have the World's Best Father, which comes from that Itty Bitty Greeting stamp set, which I've used a lot this week in this video series. It is my only Father's Day stamp. I feel like I've made my stamps go a long ways with Father's Day greetings. I'm just going to pop that over there along the edge and just kind of overlap that sailboat just a little bit there. And there you go. There you have that one. Okay? So I hope you have learned a lot today and the last couple days. These 4 days of videos that I showcase these masculine cards were actually a lot of fun for me. So I enjoyed challenging myself, and I hope the next time you need a great guide card, you will try one of these folds and techniques. Masculine cards can sometimes be intimidating, but really, how are they different? They're usually a bit easier, and that they do not typically have a lot of layers. They're clean and simple lines, and I believe the trick is also finding the right color combinations, which Stampin' Up! Makes very easy for all of us, right? So thank you for joining me today, and consider liking, commenting, and sharing all of my videos so others may be inspired as well. Take care.